I was young, I was hungry, I was extremely ambitious. And at the end of the day, running a company is like running a family or running any kind of organization. People come and people go. Most companies stay and develop. And you are winning together or you are losing together. You need to have dreams. I believe in having dreams. The dream to change the world, that small world that you can influence, but that one I own. That competition never sleeps. Be paranoid. The secret behind success is...
Welcome to Sports and Outdoor Mentors. In this episode, I chat with Juan Vargues, the president and CEO of the Dometic Group. Dometic is a business that spans three sectors: outdoor, home, and professional. One is leading the transformation from an industrial business to an outdoor lifestyle brand. Dometic employs more than 8,000 people around the world, is sold in more than 100 countries, and in 2022 generated sales in excess of 2.5 billion euros. I chat with Juan about the pressures of leading a large publicly traded company, his time before Dometic, and how he's leading the transformation of the brand, plus much, much more. But before we get into the episode, I have one favour to ask. Please hit the subscribe button. This helps us to continue to grow the channel, elevate the content, and keep bringing you great insights from other amazing leaders from the sports and outdoor industry. Thanks for your support and enjoy the episode. Juan, today you're leading a business with over 8,000 employees, present in over 100 countries around the world. You also sit on the board of an investment business. When you look back and reflect on your life today, what are the key moments that kind of led you where you are today?
I believe that there are three steps. First step is obviously meeting my wife when we were very, very young and taking the decision after my military service to move to Sweden. Either she moved or I moved. I guess that I am the more adventurous of the two of us, so I moved. So that's the first one. And all of a sudden realizing that you're in a new country with a new language and you are starting with two empty hands. So that's perhaps the first step. Second step is after spending 9 years of my life in manufacturing, learning manufacturing, I decided to meet the customer. And working for a global leading company at the time, when I was 30, 31, you realize that it's not that easy to just go to the HR department and say, now I want to move into sales. And happily enough, at the same time, I was contacted by another company to take a job for a small sales company back in Spain. So then I moved back, and that was a major change from running bigger factories, a benchmark in a global operation, to move to run the subsidiary of another global company, with the difference that this global company was about 1,500 employees worldwide. So all of a sudden, you are the guy. When you are the GM of a smaller sales company, you are the GM formally. But at the same time, you are sales manager and you are service manager and you are loading trucks and you are unloading trucks and you are meeting customers, taking service calls. So that was a fantastic journey where I really realized the power of growth. In a public company, everything is about earnings per share, is about EBITDA, is about cash flow. There's nothing that will get people motivated. Growth, you don't need to talk about growth. Growth is in the walls in a company. So people realize most of the time that they are not working for you, or you realize that people are not working for you, they are not working for the company, they are working to create their own future. So that's perhaps the second step, the value of growth for your colleagues, your co-workers. And then I guess that the third step is really moving from running factories first, then becoming really a general manager for a smaller company. And then I started with Spain, then Portugal, Iberia, and then Southern Europe, moving back to Sweden to run European operations. So that was the third major step. And of course, once you have managed Europe for a number of years, running the globe is not very difficult. The most complexity you always have in Europe. We have our history. So I guess that those are the three major steps in my career. Which implies learning new things, opening your mind, challenging your own former learnings, so to say.
Absolutely. Wow, what a journey. So I didn't realize that you were in military service. So is there anything that you take away from that you think has been relevant throughout your career that you've been able to you learned then and implement later on?
I think so. I think that there is a word in the military that sometimes in business doesn't sound very good, which is discipline.
Sure.
Discipline has, to some extent, a negative clang, while in reality it's about training, which means that when something happens, something unexpected happens, you will be able to deal with that.
Absolutely.
So I believe that in the military it's a lot about processes, a lot about training, but the entire purpose is to be able to react on the unexpected. So that's something I brought with me without any kind of doubts.
Absolutely. No, I think, yeah, you're right. It's strange how discipline has almost become a negative connotation, but I think the reality is, maybe I'm too broad, but to be without discipline, I think it's tough to be successful in anything that you do, actually, whether it's personal or professional. You need some level of discipline.
Without any kind of doubts, to me, discipline means training, being prepared. It means to really do what is expected from your colleagues, from the environment. To me, it has never been negative. I take it from a positive perspective. And it is discipline of thoughts, is discipline on implementation. Lots of companies do have a strategy. There are many strategists, but it's only the ones that are good at executing that make a real change. So and that demands discipline.
And you mentioned there that you took the decision at one point to move from the manufacturing side to the more commercial side. When you took that transition, what were the challenges that you faced in those early days, months, and maybe years of that transition?
It was really a transition on purpose. It was not about prestige or being the sales side nicer than manufacturing side. It was really the fact that at the time, the 90s, the entire world was moving really from product orientation to customer orientation. And I remember in my former company, we had a tagline, the customer in the center. And we were facing a lot of problems, meaning that we had a lot of stress. We had to do this and we had to do that, and we needed to run one extra mile, several extra miles for some customer, and then you realized that product was waiting in an inventory, external inventory for months. So I really wanted to understand, are customers so complicated, or is it our own organizations? And what can I learn so I can influence my own organization later on? So it was really about learning something new and converting what I was doing for years to even better by understanding the other side. And of course, many years after, I realized that the grass is never greener. When you're into operations, it's always the sales side. When you're in sales, it's always the product side. So it's really, again, coming back to teamwork, building together. I believe the more people we have that have experience in both fields, the better company we are going to build up, without any kind of doubts. It's a lot about understanding.
If there's that level of understanding across different areas, that I think somehow stimulates or encourages more collaboration, which then leads to positive things.
It is funny because in any kind of company where you have a sales and some kind of operations, you always have these kind of challenges, right? You always have this friction. No matter if we are talking about forecasting, what are we going to do next year? And what happens when the forecast is too optimistic or too pessimistic? And again, if you have been on the other side, you realize that it's not that easy. But if you have been doing something forever, you will underestimate the challenges on the other side. And at the end of the day, running a company is like running a family or running any kind of organization. You need to find the balance. And you are winning together or you are losing together. So to me, that's part of the learning, is that the broader you are, the more experience you have in different fields, the better judgment you are going to make.
So you initially studied mechanical engineering, and then I know later in your career you went back to do an executive MBA while you were working, if I understood.
Yes.
So that must have been tough to, going back to your previous point about the balance and doing both things at the same time. How did you manage that?
Well, I guess that I have tons of energy, and of course that it took time. And at the time, my kids were not big, so they were. My daughter was no more than 2 years old, but at the same time, I got a lot of energy. I do believe that there is a difference when you do your MBA just after college, or you have a number of years in between. When you have a number of years in between, all of a sudden you have much more experience yourself. You have already tried a number of things, and you go back and really evaluate whether theories fit in practice or not. And you get, so to say, a new wave of knowledge that you will take it to the next level in practice. So to me, it was very, very useful. And of course, you have a lot of time for reflection, own reflection. To me, the MBA was on one side, obviously, to get some more fundamental knowledge in a number of areas. But it was most of it to have time for yourself, reflecting about your own leadership and how you could take your own leadership to the next level in practice, as I was running an European business at the same time. So, I mean, change management, all of a sudden, we were, even at the time, transforming that company. We were changing business models. So now I could really evaluate these fantastic theories in practice. How do you run it? And how will people react? I learned to take one step back as well. That sometimes it is not whether the vision is great or not. It is, are people running at your pace? Or do you need to wait, stop and wait for a while? Are we cascading down the strategy? Is the strategy real? Or is it a corporate strategy? And then you have the reality. Keep in mind, I was not born in a headquarter. Yes. I spent a lot of years in the field. Yes. And I know all of the headquarter and, the strategy and the reality. How many times have you heard, well, no, that's very good and it's very, very good idea. But, it doesn't fit us. We are so different.
Yes. Well, I heard it and experienced it because I also started actually when I joined Columbia Sportswear. I spent 13 years in regional, and then when I went to Salomon, I was in global roles. Yeah. And so I've definitely witnessed both sides, as have you.
No doubt.
But I think to your point on the first question, having those two perspectives can only make you hopefully better actually addressing either side.
Right. When you are in the central point, all of a sudden you see all these differences. That on one side, customers, we have many international customers, they view one company, right? And they are expecting to be treated as one company. But you have different approaches in different countries, you will not serve them in the way they are expecting. So, but when you are running your own business, of course, you try to do the best for your own local business. So it's how do you prevent sub-optimization? And it's easy to optimize in your own area, but at the same time, you are sub-optimizing for the group, or the other way around. Yeah. You are trying to optimize for the group, but you are missing the fact that you are competing with local players, having different conditions. And how do you find the balance in between?
So how do you find a balance? It's a good question.
Listening, judging, forming your own opinions. I believe that's perhaps one of the most underestimated areas in business. You tend to spend 80% of your time listening to your peers, to your colleagues, to your own organizations. But no matter if you have 10% market share or 50% market share, there is a part of the market that you don't know. And of course, part of that learning I do through acquisitions, meeting customers, meeting competitors, understanding competition, understanding the former competitors, but also the potential new competitors. And then, of course, listening to your organization. And out of that, all that listening, you form your own opinion. Yes. So I think it's very much about observing, looking at trends, but also listening to your competitors. I think that's a very, very important part of it. It's very, very seldom that you are doing everything right and your competitors are doing everything wrong. Yeah. Learn as much as you can. Be curious. Be paranoid.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious. Definitely kind of heard that approach before for sure. But the paranoid, I quite like that. It kind of puts a different perspective and importance on it.
It's about, how many companies do we or did we know yesterday that are gone, totally gone, and they were market leaders, right?
Yeah.
They simply forgot that competition never sleeps.
Yes.
And it's not always, it's very, very seldom that disruption is coming from today's competition. Disruption is normally coming from new players. People not having history, right? Not needing to consider all these if and buts that we have in an existing industry. They are coming from outside, other reference points. So to me, being paranoid is really about lifting your own bar all the time.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it.
Absolutely.
So that's to me, that's the driver. And that's why I really love and enjoy to drive these kind of transformation journeys, because it's taking good companies in good industries to a different level.
Yes.
Or consolidating industries and forming a new industry.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I really like that. I'm going to make a mental note of that. That's great. You mentioned there when you were doing your MBA that one of the observations was that you felt that it was somehow enabling you to evolve your own approach to leadership. So when you look back maybe over your career, how would you say your approach to leadership has evolved?
But to me, it's crystal clear. I mean, I was young, I was hungry, I was extremely ambitious, and I believe that I am a pretty fast thinker. But you also need to consider, and of course, when you are 30, 35, it's not always that you reflect about the rest. You are normally reflecting on yourself, your own career, you are very much in yourself. After a while, and I believe that formal assessments with third-party people are very, very, very useful, because they are professionals and they will tell you what they see, not what you want to hear. And I got one of those that made me think. Somebody that told me, Juan, you're fantastic, you are this and that, but how do you make sure that you realize that people are following you, that you are not moving too fast? Because it's not everybody that is thinking as fast as you are doing. How do you get them back? How do you make sure that 50% are not lost in the way? And that made me think. So I believe that that's one factor. Another factor that perhaps I can come back to is really that when you are 35, you want everybody to succeed. And you try once, and you try twice, and you try 3 times. But then after a while, when you made up your mind, then you push the button, right? Today, I do believe that I'm much, much faster in understanding who is going to make the cut and who is not going to make it. But I'm much better at planning. So I think driving change management, driving transformation of companies means a lot of change for a lot of people. And in terms of people, it's not about good people, bad people. It's really people ready to take next step. Sure. And people are happy with their own careers, are happy with what they did, and are not ready to take next step. And then as the leader, you need to be very, very good at giving people chances, but at the same time, without forgetting that your job is to execute a strategy. And that means that you need to take some of these tough decisions. So perhaps those are the 2 areas where I have learned the most. First about myself, my own leadership, but also seniority gives you the speed to get to conclusions much faster. You become more realistic, but you are better at planning. At the beginning of your career, you are much slower making your own judgment about somebody. But then once you make up your mind, you push the button.
Yes.
Which might lead to a new problem. You're solving one problem and creating a new problem. Today, I am much faster in getting to a decision, but I'm much better planning when to execute.
That desire or not desire, but your ability to think very quickly and find and see solutions quickly. But as you say, sometimes it's not always easy.
You're going to do it yourself.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Exactly. So how do you, because I can also imagine that can be sometimes personally frustrating. So how do you kind of personally manage that?
No, but it's impossible. I mean, that's perhaps the difference when you're running a small company and you're an entrepreneur. Again, you are very much one man's band, without disrespect to the rest of the team. But a lot of the things are passing through you, right? When you're running a global business, how much do you know about what is going on worldwide? So it's very much about building up a team and cascading down the strategy. It's very much about putting together a vision, which is compelling enough to get most of people on board. But then you need to have the right individuals as well. Again, if you look at Bjorn Borg, was a fantastic tennis player, right? But he quit at 26 years old. Yeah. Why? He was great, but he was really tired of winning. He needed a new challenge. And I believe that's also valid in business life. Sometimes you have all-time high, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. For how many times are you going to do it? And it doesn't mean that you cannot do it again in a different business. But in the same business, you get to a point where it becomes a little bit of the autopilot. And when you're running on the autopilot, then you are not paranoid enough.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's very much about building up a team. You need to have a compelling strategy, vision. You need to have a dream that you can communicate in a good way. But then it's very much about execution. And you cannot execute yourself. In the same way as you cannot build out the strategy yourself, you need to get people to be part of the strategy, part of the dream. You also need to have the people to become your own ambassadors. Again, this is not Juan. This is Dometic. This is the team. How do we make it happen? It's a lot about team building and sharing the dream and making the dream reality. Dreams are just dreams.
When you look back on your career journey to date, what are your reflections on it? You said yourself you're a fast thinker when you were younger, ambitious. How do you feel about your career path when you look back now?
I feel fortunate, I have to say. Starting by spending my years in manufacturing, then sales organizations, then becoming the CEO. I have always been working for global leading companies. From the first company, SKF, to Bisam, to Assa Abloy, and Dometic, has always been the number one. So of course that has been an environment where I could always learn from people being smarter than I was. And I also believe that it's not just about the company choosing you. It's about you choosing the right company, but also the right boss. I believe in decentralization. I have a big motor inside. And what I appreciate is when you have somebody which is placing that question that you have not been close to. When you get the wow feeling, how comes that I didn't think about that? That's what you learn. You don't learn by somebody telling you, you have to do this, you have to do that. But that kind of curiosity, open-mindedness is not managing, it's leading, it's coaching. Manager, you become somebody appoints you to manager. Leadership is something that you have with you, right? And I guess that I have been fortunate to have managers that were very good leaders. And that's what I believe that I have learned from. So, I feel good. It's not that often in most people's careers that they have always been working for the global market leader in the different areas.
Yeah.
And developing the business, I have been fortunate enough to run a number of transformation journeys, and that's the environment I really enjoy. When on one side you need to have the growth, a good company, good positions, but needs to change skin, needs to become something else. At the same time as you need to industrialize, you need to work on the efficiencies. So on one side you have the growth in a different way, but you also can finance the growth by becoming a better company, a more efficient company. And I guess that's where my manufacturing background comes in, when we were counting seconds and not hours or days or years. Yeah. So that combination to me has always been very, very powerful.
You've mentioned in the last two answers, you talked a lot about people and the importance of having people. So do you have is there something when you're hiring leaders into your business that is like something that's like a non-negotiable for you, where you're like, okay, when I'm hiring, whatever the type of role is, somebody has to be like this?
Yes and no. I mean, you want to have a combination of different qualities or skills. If I'm thinking about the way I want Dometic to run, of course that we are becoming sizable, but at the same time we are getting ourselves into the unknown. So that means that I like entrepreneurial profiles. If you are coming from a company being 100 years in business, the risk is that all the processes are already in place, right? If you are coming from a business where you have been doing more or less the same kind of changes, transformational changes that we are doing, you will feel self-confident. You have already been exposed to that. So entrepreneurship is important. We are not entrepreneurs, but we can be entrepreneurial. Fast moving, 80% is more than enough to take a decision. And again, SKF was a fantastic company. But one of the reasons for me to be appealed to do something else was the fact that I was the generation number 25 of managers running more or less the same business, more or less in the same way. Of course, different machines, but again, I didn't feel like I could transform the business. While in all my other jobs, the companies had a lot of history, but I felt that I could do a difference, so to say. So entrepreneurial, speed, diversity, I think is extremely important. I mean, the fact that you have people that have been living in different countries means that they need to be open-minded. They are learning all the time. Or female, males. I always believed in having diversity around me. It brings a new touch to any kind of discussion. And it is clear, males and females are different. That's the fact. Sometimes you can be in a discussion for 2 hours and then you get the same question I mentioned before about a leader. But what about? And then you think, okay, now I understand why they are better at multitasking than we are, males. We use one part of the brain when they are using 4 parts of the brain at the same time, which is a fantastic compliment. Absolutely. On one side, you want to have people understanding the basics of a strategy. But at the same time, you want to have doers. The same, I don't believe that Dometic is the right place for somebody who was born in a headquarter. I have always been working at a headquarter. Because the question is, how do you get people out in the organization, engaged and motivated, if you don't know how you feel when you are on the other side? Mm-hmm. How do you cascade messages? How do you make it happen? Yeah. If you give the same, if you're going to communicate a strategy, it's very difficult to motivate people in a factory, motivate people in sales organizations, if you are going to give them a book, 200 pages of a strategy. But on the contrary, if they are part of that process, that's a different story. But that means that you need to have that kind of experience as well. So without any kind of doubt, there are a combination of different skills that I'm looking for. Yeah. Then sometimes when you are hiring, it's always a compromise. And you have this long wishing list, and you end up always compromising.
I know very well. Right? I have this discussion with my clients a lot.
I can imagine.
The wish list,
oh, yes.
and then the reality.
Yes, that's always the case. But I think the other one, perhaps I forgot to mention that there is another parameter, because we are talking about entrepreneurship, and then you can think about the smaller companies. But one of the challenges that you have with smaller companies is that they are lacking the complexity we have. All of a sudden, you are global, right? You have different segments, you are decentralized, and you believe in decentralization, which means that you have been running a very, very successful company with 200 employees in one country. All of a sudden, you realize that, just a second, we have 5 different presidents, we have a strong functional managers, and we are going to take a decision. And we are in different time zones, from New Zealand to Vancouver. That's another parameter to consider, complexity. How do you, again, on one side you want to have doers. At the same time, you want to have people that have been exposed to that kind of complexity. And I can give you, I believe, a very, very good sample. So a couple of years ago, I was looking for an e-commerce leader, right? And then I interviewed a number of people coming from very, very good e-commerce companies, right? People that took a company from 0 to 20 million euros or dollars, fantastic job. But how do you get such a person running with 20 people on the same spot to communicate with 5 different segments, having their own opinions on how to run? So that's where complexity comes in. On the other side, I also interviewed a number of people coming from major, very well-known companies in consumer business. But the reason for wanting to leave is that they had a strategy but could not implement, because the companies they were working for were more afraid of the history, today's customers. They saw more the threat than the opportunities. So they got into these internal conflicts. So again, there you have 2 sides. And I guess that the secret behind success is to find a combination of both. You need to be entrepreneurial as the small doer, rolling up the sleeves. But at the same time, you need to deal with the complexity. It is a reality. Sure. It's easier to take decisions in a 200 people company than in an 8,000 people company.
It's not easy to find that balance. It's really not easy. No, very, very true.
And that leads to the next challenge, which is wrong hires.
Yes.
There is always a risk.
For sure.
And I think, I'm sure that you have the same experience, right? Yes. Fantastic people in one environment. We don't do it in a different environment. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with good or bad. Do they fit the organization, the culture, the needs of the company here and now?
There's let's say, the visible impact of a bad hire, but there's also a large financial invisible impact in terms of time and resources and training and
credibility.
It's not easy for sure. It's not easy. When you think about your role as president and CEO, obviously you're dealing with a breadth of different topics. But is there one area, one topic where you feel, okay, this is the most important thing? If everything else falls away for whatever reason, this is the thing that I have to get done, I have to focus on?
But to me, it's the execution of the strategy. I mean, if you have what you believe is the right strategy for the company, has been sanctioned by the board, has been interpreted right by the capital market, it's very much about getting it done. And that's why, even if you are part of the capital markets, if I think about my time, I guess the 90% of my time goes to run Dometic internally. It's very much about meeting customers, meeting your own organization, it's implementing the strategy, it's change management all the time. That's the most important job. If we do a good job, you will see that in the share price. If not, talking to investors every single day will not give you anything on the share price if the company is not performing. Yes. Or if there is a disconnect between the performance and the strategy. A lot of investors are buying in because they believe in the strategy.
Sure.
Long-term investors.
Yeah.
Right? So the fact that you're performing, but at the same time you are not implementing a strategy, you don't have the KPIs showing to the market that you are really making it happen, will not be appreciated either. Yeah. So to me, it's very much about execution. Strategy, you do it the first year and then you are done. You can tick the box. The rest is make it happen.
Interesting. And you mentioned there, you spoke about the importance of still interacting with clients, with customers.
Without any kind of doubts.
Okay, so that's something that you I'm sure you don't allocate a certain amount of time, but it's something that is very clear for you in your own mind, that even in your role.
Absolutely. You have to. As I said, no matter if you have 10% market share or you have 50% market share, even when you have 50% market share, there are 50% of the market that you are not reaching. Yeah. How do you know why if you're not meeting them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So growth to me is about protecting your customers while adding other people's customers. If you are just protecting, there is no growth unless those customers are growing as well. Yes. So you need to really deal with both sides.
So you talked about the most important thing you have to do. What's the most difficult thing that you have to do? Maybe it's the same thing, but
the most difficult. I wouldn't say the most difficult. I think. Like in any kind of areas of life, you have things that you like more and things that you like less, but they are also important parts of the job. Of course, that we have our reviews. And I cannot simply sit here and state that those are the most enjoyable days that I have every single month, right? Where it's about follow up. but it's an important part of your job. Sure. That means that normally I'm spending a couple of days, I would say, up to 1 week on the follow-up every month. But that also gives me the time, the rest of the month, to be out there, to travel quite a lot and to spend my time meeting customers or meeting investors or meeting my own organization. So the follow-up, you need to do it. It's a must-do.
And are you talking about kind of business review follow-up or, okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But you have the typical financial reviews, but then you're talking about product development, you're talking about the sales, you are talking about the strategy implementation. So all these follow-ups, what you think that normally it should happen automatically, right? Yeah. But that's part of the process. The discipline will not be there if you don't follow up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I think it goes back to that discipline and because, we do need to follow these things. That's why we have KPIs and, if you're not following them, then you don't know when the train comes off the track.
Correct.
Yeah. So you mentioned, we talked a little bit before, you have a Swedish wife and you mentioned you have kids. And as I mentioned earlier on, you obviously have this role and you sit on another board. Yeah. What's the word? Are there any non-negotiable things for you that you have to do to maintain a good balance between all of those different pools of your time?
I mean, I spend most of my life working, and when I'm not working, it's very much about my family, indeed. And they always stood up for me, for I wouldn't say my career, our career, because this is not Juan's job. This is the entire family's job, I would say, especially my wife. And then I need to have some time for myself. Again, I am a public person. I'm hanging on the phone, on Teams or on Zoom, kind of 8 hours every day, and then you have all the other meetings besides. So I need at least 4 to 5 hours every weekend, which is for myself. Yeah. And that's when I pick up my running shoes, go out and run. Correct. It takes 2 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. And if for some reason I would need to travel, or for some reason my dear wife has invited us somewhere, then I don't feel good because I need those 2 hours. Yeah. So that's my own time. Because it's not just about the running, your brain is somewhere else. For sure. All of a sudden, you move yourself into what you have not done this week, or you move yourself into what we should be doing instead. So it's funny. It's really when I'm running, or when I'm sitting on a flight, on a long haul. Yeah. I guess that I have been working globally for 30 years. I will not lie to you if I say that I have seen max 10 movies when sitting on long haul flights. Yeah. That's where I move myself into the future. Okay. But then when I'm running during the weekends, those are the two opportunities when you disconnect from the day-to-day, when you disconnect from what happened last week, and you move yourself into, I'm not really happy with that. Yeah. Yeah. Or we should be doing again. Then I become the paranoid again. How do we take it to the next level?
Interesting. So actually the running it's almost more of of course it's physical exercise, it's more a mental exercise.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
It's both, because of course you feel really good.
Yes.
When you have done it. Yeah. Even if it's windy in Sweden and it's cold winter time.
Yeah.
But it's extremely useful. Yeah. Both for your body and for your mind.
So when you look back over your career, and this is always a difficult question, but what would you consider to be your biggest failure or biggest disappointment, and how did you personally kind of recover from that? Maybe it was a 4-hour run that weekend.
No, it was not. I do believe that one of the most frustrating was really my first 2 acquisitions. Unfortunately, it didn't go very, very well. We neither one or the other. 2 British companies, by the way. Yeah.
I'm trying not to take that personally.
No. But it was not about the company. It was really, I listened far too much to the gurus. Those were my first 2 acquisitions. And I read too much. I listened too much to everybody telling me, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to be careful. You are sitting on an earnout. Think if. So, and that was a a fantastic discovery trip, right? Because, again, it was the first time, and I was working for a very, very, very acquisitive company. Okay. But again, instead of trusting my guts, I listened too much. And I mean, the reason for failing is obviously that when you're acquiring a smaller company, normally the entrepreneur is spending 6 to 9 months preparing the sale, right? And you have your advisors, and you are answering a lot of silly questions as you are really preparing the company for sale. Yeah. Then you sign the deal, and then you have the new owner. And the first thing, obviously, as new owner is that you need to work on the numbers. You need to start reporting the numbers, which takes a lot of time. Then you have, obviously, your own team, very, very much keen on learning about the new businesses. And of course, in a small company, everything is going to go through number 1, number 2, right? So you have exactly the same people that were very much involved during the 6 to 9 months pre-acquisition, answering even more silly questions coming post-acquisitions. Yes. And then after 6 months, you start asking, but what is going on with the order intake? Sales is coming down. And then your counterpart becomes a little bit nervous, and you see that the order intake keeps coming down, and you say, but come on, we need to do something. And in these cases, the entrepreneur told me, you know what, Juan, you run the company, I'm leaving. So integration is something else. Integration, you need, and that's, I have completed 75 acquisitions. Wow. The first 2 went wrong, 73 went pretty good.
Great.
And of course, what was the learning? The learning is that every single company has a so-called playbook on how to integrate companies. The problem is that there are not 2 companies that are the same. It's very much about people. No matter how good you are running or how well you are running a DD, a due diligence, in a scale 1 to 10, even if you are running the best due diligence in the world, perhaps you are on a scale 1 or 3.
Yeah.
If you are acquiring a small company, you are meeting the entrepreneur himself, and sometimes, if you are lucky, you might be meeting as well the financial manager. Yeah. All the rest, you are dealing with the advisors. Yeah. So how do you know how the company is behind the entrepreneur? And that's what I missed. I couldn't evaluate the level of the management behind number 1, number 2, and how they would cope with the changes.
Yes.
That's what I learned. That was my own learning. Okay. Don't let all these super duper advisors, you need to do it as if it was your company. How would you treat one of your teams in a different country? Yeah. I think that was the most important. So again, fantastic learning. I had a fantastic boss that told me, Juan, these were pretty expensive monies to learn, but hopefully you learn, and I learned big time. Yeah, sure. So the rest became pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's I guess a tough lesson, but a good lesson though. On the other hand,
to me, as you just said, of course, I was devastated. I was devastated because we tried to fix the company for a couple of years, but we couldn't. And I believe that when you have somebody telling you, Juan, of course that we should have treated it in a different way, you did your best, and make sure that you learn. And I believe it's very much about that. If you don't dare to make mistakes as an acquisitive company, you will never acquire any company. Business is about taking risk, calculated risk. Another time, my boss taught me that he took a calculated risk when signing a deal that I prepared, right?
Yeah.
So, again, I guess that's the first one. The second one is coming back to hiring the right people. Of course, that you go back to your career and important positions where you failed. Even you did everything. You did assessment, and you had all the experts. You had your own people interviewing. Still, it went wrong. And that one, I'm still learning. I guess that's part of the business.
Yeah.
And again, we are running assessment for every single top person that we are taking. Any person sitting in our management teams are going through the assessment process. Still, things happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So the only thing you can do is to mitigate the risk.
Yeah.
Look at the individual as such, the skills, but also the culture the individuals are coming from. Does that fit where we are coming from and what we want to achieve?
Have you ever worked with a mentor or a coach over your career?
No, not really. And I guess, of course, that I thought a couple of times, this is not a new concept, it has been there for 25 or 30 years. But the reality is that I guess I have been coached or led by my bosses.
Yeah.
So I never felt, and again, what I appreciate, to me, coaching, mentoring is very much about raising the right questions, getting your counterpart to think and to reflect about his own leadership. So I guess that's what I'm coming from. I think it's extremely important to choose your boss.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
It's a two-way journey.
Absolutely. I agree.
And
and
if you have the right boss, you will grow
Yes.
as a leader yourself.
For sure. I fully agree. And I think it's something that many people don't give enough consideration, or even any consideration in some cases. And I think it can really make or break a successful part of somebody's career.
And that's, I guess, where I feel fortunate because, as I mentioned previously, I have been fortunate on one side to be picked up by 4 global leaders in my life.
Yeah.
At the same time, I did my job and also chose to join 4 good bosses that I could learn from.
Yeah.
So that's what we had a match, so to say.
Yeah.
They were looking for somebody that could make a difference, but I was looking for also somebody that could help me to grow in my own career, in my own leadership.
Dometic's roots can be traced back, I think, almost 100 years, or I think it is 100 years. And obviously, its background was very much in manufacturing. And yeah, it has a real kind of rich heritage and obviously a strong connection to the Electrolux brand back in the day. But then in the last 20 years, there's been this focus to really transform the brand into more of a lifestyle, outdoor lifestyle brand almost, or consumer lifestyle brand. And I think any kind of transformation is challenging. Transformation, a business that has roots that are 100 years old, is probably even more challenging.
Indeed.
And even, I would say, even more so, a company that has been rooted more in manufacturing, to put more of a consumer and a lifestyle emphasis on it is a tough transformation. So I guess my question is twofold. Firstly, why? And I think probably the decision maybe was taken before you joined, but I'm sure you have that background. So what was the decision making behind taking that journey? And in your, 5 years since you've been with the business, what have the challenges been, but also what are the things that you're really proud of that has been achieved over that time? Sorry, that's lots of questions.
No. But I mean, is really the question, I would say. I mean, first of all, that what appealed to me. I didn't move to run the old Dometic. I moved to transform the old Dometic into an even better Dometic, to really transform a good Dometic, global market leader, having very strong positions. But the fact that you have such strong positions leads you to the question, what is next? Again, I need to go back to the beginning. When I was running my small company down in Spain, I believe in having big targets. I think it's very difficult to get people motivated if you are going to tell them, we are going to grow 2.5% year on year. Yeah. But if you have 40% market share globally, and the market is growing 2.5%, 3%, 4%, it's impossible to say, we have a dream, we are going to double.
Yes.
So that was really the reason. So the story, the board knew that we had a fantastic market position. But the question is, what is next? And that's where I'm coming in. At the same time, I could also see when looking at the annual report 2016 that we had collected a lot of complexity during many years. You know, in a company being 100 years, you get a lot of different products, you have a lot of different factories, you have a lot of complexity. So now, on one side, I had the need of finding new territories, new areas to grow. At the same time as I could finance part of the growth by becoming much more efficient as a company. And again, this is what I have been doing before in different industries. That was extremely appealing. So how do you do it? You start with a strategy, right? So when I joined the company, people told me, yeah, but we are into the RV industry. But we are not an RV supplier. We are not manufacturing cars or vehicles. So you need to force yourself to go back and say, what are we really good at? What are our core competencies? And we found out that this company was a technology company from the beginning. We started with cooling technology. We invented one of the cooling technologies. We are good at cooking. We have been doing cooking for many, many years. We are good at electronics. We are good at mobility. So we have been part of the auto industry for many, many years from a mobility perspective. And then we are pretty good at dealing with the small spaces, space utilization. So the question was more, okay, but if we want to grow, is it about putting more content per vehicle, or is it about taking your core competencies and moving to different verticals? And to me, it was very, very easy. If I look at most successful companies, it's not about becoming a wholesaler, putting a lot of different products to go to the same customer. It's really focusing on your core competencies and starting to think, where can you use that competence somewhere else? So that was one. So that was step number one. Step number two is trends. Which kind of global trends could influence, benefit, or hurt us moving forward? First global trend, leisure expenditure. The market, looking at the business from 2011-12 up to 2016-17, 7% organic growth year on year, when a normal GDP is 2.5%, right? Yeah. Fantastic market conditions. People want to spend more time in nature. Second trend, sustainability. Sustainability is driving electrification. We are coming from manufacturing products that will be installed by somebody into some kind of vehicle, right? But electrification is going to change the way people take themselves out to nature. And you could see the trends. You could see RVs becoming smaller. But the paradox was really that cars were becoming bigger. Yeah. So now you start thinking, okay, but just a second. If cars are becoming bigger and the SUV market is already today 40% of the entire car manufacturing around the world, and the installed park is 350 million vehicles, that means that I have 350 million owners as an average 4 people in every car. So that's 1.2 billion. That could be my target for my products. But then I need to move from installed products to portable products. Yeah. And we already had a couple of portable products. So consumer business, retail was not totally new to us, but it was there in a corner. But now I had a trend that could influence big time. And we had the competencies, if we go back to our core competencies. So then you realize that, wow, here we have something that nobody is occupying. There's a totally open space waiting for somebody. So then you get into a totally different business. Problem being, obviously, that for decades we have been doing B2B. If I'm going to develop a consumer journey with you, I need to think a different way. And then first you get into, okay, but do we have the competence? Well, we have some competence, but we are consumer driven to 7-8%. If I go back 5 years, then you start thinking, okay, but how do we add competence? Because it's going to take forever if we are going to change the mix. That's where acquisitions play a very, very important role. That explains a lot of the 12 acquisitions that we have done in the last years. You are not buying a product. You are buying a brand, an existing brand, in the consumer's mind. You are acquiring 3,000 people coming from a consumer business. And all of a sudden, the company becomes something else. Yes. All of a sudden, it's not just B2B or B2C. You get an understanding for B2B and B2C. Then you have the old Dometic. When we were looking for people in the past, we were looking for people coming from automotive. Yeah. When we are looking for people today, of course, we still have people coming from automotive, but we are looking much more for people coming from the outdoor industry or the consumer industry. So the how is very much a combination of organic growth and acquisitive growth. The why is crystal clear. If we are going to double the size of the company, that by the way we did during the last 5 years, is very much about moving into new territories. And coming back to what I said, it's not that we are just moving that. At the same time, we need to protect our position in the existing markets. So to me, growth is, again, You need to cover, you need to protect your existing position at the same time as you are moving yourself into something else. And that's where acquisitions is bringing a lot of competence. So results, I feel proud, obviously, of what we achieved as an organization. Doubling the size of the company during the last 5 years, that are the most difficult 5 years in my entire career. Of course, that you can go back to the financial crisis, Lehman Brothers, but everybody knew that was coming, right? You have 2 years to prepare yourself. But how do you prepare yourself for a pandemic? And then the post-pandemic, an unbelievable demand on the market, delivery problems, components, electronics. At the same time as inflation kicks in, everybody builds inventories, your customers, and all of a sudden you have the deliveries, but you don't have the customers. So when looking back at the last 5 years, it has been the heck of a ride. And if I look at where we are turning today, if I look at the EBITDA today, I believe that we can feel very, very proud. 5 years ago, when you read about Dometic, normally in the press or in the financial papers, Dometic was described as a fridge manufacturer or as a supplier to the RV industry. Today, 95 times out of 100, it says the outdoor company. Yes. So somewhere we have managed to move perception.
For sure.
Then, of course, we're in the early days. So that what makes me really confident is that we are starting to get traction, even if we have just started. I mean, you think about many other companies in the outdoor industry, they have been doing outdoor for 25, 30 years. The perception has been there from the beginning. We are taking a very old company and becoming something else in a very short period of time. So I think that to state that I'm happy, I'm paranoid, so I will never be happy. But I cannot deny that I look back from time to time, I say, we are doing a pretty good job, despite the stormy times that we have gone through.
That's really interesting about the acquisitions I had. You actually already answered one of my questions, because I noticed that I think since you joined, there's been around 11 acquisitions, but now it's
12. I was totally active from the beginning when we acquired Sister as well.
Okay.
So I took the job in July 2017, but I started in January 2018.
Okay.
So the 6 months, that's what we did, the acquisition system.
Okay, interesting. No, but it's the way you describe it, and obviously you're buying a brand, but also, as you said, those competencies that you didn't have.
Big time. And the difference, perhaps one of the main differences, is that as a strategy, I mean, we are a global company. To me, the only reason for making these acquisitions is to build up global businesses. Yeah. I'm not interested in buying a company doing something in one country or in a continent or something. We need to get the scale. Yes. So some of these acquisitions that we made, you can take the Eagle acquisition or the Sister acquisition. Those were transformational acquisitions. Yes. All the rest are bolt-on acquisitions. Okay. It's about complementing something that we already have and becoming global, getting a global scale. So I can assure you there is no opportunistic acquisition, at least not during my time.
You talked earlier on about risk and the need to take risk to be successful in business. But if you knew you weren't going to fail, what would you do?
You need to have respect. That's perhaps one of the preconditions that you need to be aware when you are running a public company. This is not your money. You are working on behalf. So of course that you need to have risk management. And then part of that risk management is to see opportunities against the risk. So to me there is no one without the other. It is always evaluating how much more risk can you take. I mean, to be very, very specific, just now we are in a situation, as many other companies, where we have inventories, where we have, after all these acquisitions, leverage has been a little bit higher. So of course that it would be very, very difficult to meet investors and to say, by the way, I'm going to acquire another 5 companies in the coming 6 months. Would that make sense from a long-term strategy perspective? Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. But it would be madness from a short-term perspective. Sure. When you know the expectations is that just now the market needs to come back, right? So to me, again, you cannot ask me what would you do if, because there is an if.
No, you've answered the question.
Yes.
No.
There will always be an if.
For sure. No, but that's clear. And that, I definitely fully understand the let's say the opportunities, but also the limitations and challenges in running a public company.
I'm going back to the dream. You need to be a realistic dreamer.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not a dreamer.
Yeah.
I am a doer.
Feet on the ground.
Correct. That's, the world is filled of visionary people never achieved anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, it's easy to,
very true.
It's easy to have ideas.
Yeah, very true.
It's how you get the rest of the world to understand that as well.
Absolutely. So talking about having your feet on the ground, you already spoke about running. Are you, and we're surrounded by beautiful lifestyle imagery. Are you somebody that enjoys personally spending time in the outdoors?
I would say that I did much more before than I am today, but this timing is not the fact that I like it or not. I love it. I mean, I grew up, my dad was crazy about climbing, mountains, fishing, skiing. So my granddad, so my dad was also educated in that environment. So it's something that I have with me. But of course, time is tough. Time is tough. So that's why I need my 2 hours plus 2 hours. Yes.
This is clear. So I ask everybody what their favorite piece of sports and outdoor gear is. I guess for you, it's going to be your running shoes, maybe.
Yes. It is. Without them, you can forget the rest.
Absolutely. And the great thing about running is even when you are traveling, it's the easiest thing to do wherever you are in the world.
But this is also, as you just said, it's easy. It takes 2 hours. You need to plan. You just do it, right? And again, it's not just your body, but also your mind. You clean up your mind. To me, is weekend. There is no weekend if I have no opportunity. Is part, going back to discipline. We were talking about discipline. I believe when you have such a life as I have, traveling a lot of happening every single day, you need to have some reference points. I guess that becomes a reference point, like having dinner with my wife Friday evening. If for some reason we are invited somewhere, I get devastated because Friday evening, that's our time. To some extent, that's when the weekend starts. It doesn't start with friends. It doesn't start with third parties. It starts with my wife trying to, wind down what you have done during the week.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds like we're quite similar. I have this challenge with my wife sometimes as well.
Me too.
She wants to have friends around, and I'm like,
Saturday is okay, no Friday.
Yeah, exactly. What book would you recommend to somebody that is interested in being a leader within the sports and outdoor industry? Is there one that sticks out to you? I don't know if it is
outdoor or not. I mean, we are talking a lot about leadership, and of course, the one of the very well-known books that was written kind of 25 years ago is From Good to Great, right, with Jim Collins. I guess, coming back to myself, I have been fortunate to work in different industries. And what you learn is that the toolbox that you are building up works in most industries. Because at the end of the day is strategy, but strategy is pretty similar in any kind of company. Any single company wants to grow. Any single company wants to be innovative, or any single company will need to work on the cost, right? So that's, to me, overestimating. To me, it's much more about leadership. It's much more about people. It's about getting motivation. Again, it's about building a dream. It's easy to get your management team to get 7 or 10 people on the table to say, yes, but how do you get all those thousands of people that you never meet? Where you, again, I guess that when you have these kind of jobs, you are trained all the time to communicate, right? To read people and to get them with you. But you cannot do that at a distance. There you need to really cascade it down. So again, I think that to me, it's not about the strategy, it's about execution. And execution is about people. You will not do it yourself.
No, absolutely. No, but that's a great book.
It's teamwork.
Yeah. No, but the Good to Great it's a great book.
Well, it starts with choosing the right people on the train, right? On the bus.
Yeah, exactly.
Not good people or bad people. The right people for this phase here and now.
So what's the best piece of advice somebody's ever given you?
I guess I'm coming back to that assessment when I was kind of 34, 35, telling me, Juan, stay from time to time and think whether you have the rest with you or you are moving too fast mentally.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Get people on board.
Yeah.
It is so easy, again, that you see the path, that you see the light, and you want to move. The question is, how do you get people to move? And if they don't move, they will not be able to cascade again. So to me, that's again, is how do you find the balance in the organization? You cannot get the organization to become complacent, relaxed. But at the same time, you need to find the right moments to move the target again and again and again. So it's how do you get somebody paranoid like me to be patient enough to realize that you need to have the rest with you? Yeah. That if you are running your own company with another 5 employees or 20 employees around you, you will fly. Again, if I compare my world running Visa Iberica and my world today, is two different universes. And again, I could get, you were entering the door every single day and you knew who needed to have 2 extra seconds, 1 minute. How do you do it in this environment? If you look at my management team, I have Eric sitting in Vancouver. I have Oliver sitting in Chicago. I have Josh sitting in Katy, Texas. I have Charlene sitting in Hong Kong. I see people around the world. We are meeting, we are talking a couple of times a month. We have a management team meeting a month, 4 hours, because of time zones. Yeah. So everything is about execution, and everything having to do with execution has to do with people. Yeah. So that's the most important job. Yeah. So stay up, think about where are they? You know where you are, but do you know where they are?
So you're talking about those people. So if today was your last day, what message would you give your team?
I think it's very clear. On one side, the first one is the show goes on. And the second will be paranoid.
Great.
People come and people go. Most companies stay and develop. The target with any good manager, in my opinion, is to take the company to the next level. So it has to move on. And don't take into consideration what I did. Now it is you. Now you need to form your own team. But the second advice would be lift the bar again.
Great.
You will not get the best people if you don't lift the bar. You need to have dreams. I believe in having dreams. Yeah. Again, the dream to change the world, that small world that you can influence, but that one I own. And I would like somebody else to own after me again.
And like you said, aim high. It's make sure that dream is a big dream. Yeah. Yeah. So it's motivating.
It becomes your dream. It's not my dream anymore. I formed this dream together with a team of people. The day one is gone, the dream has to, again, be engineered to some extent. Otherwise, people will live on Juan's dream. And that's not right. Yeah. It's a new dream. Yeah. Another nice dream, but it's a new dream. And it has to be communicated, in my opinion. Again, strategy is a different story. Strategy is very, very seldom that you make any... That's a question sometimes you get, but what about... to me, strategy is direction. You don't change the direction of the company every second year. To me, strategy is like a highway, right? It's one direction, and everybody's expected to join that. But of course, that you are joining depending on where you are today. It's not if you have a small business and you have a big business. It's not if you are in one segment of the market or another segment of the market. But that doesn't make the strategy different. It's simply how and when do we. So that's why to me, strategy is to some extent the frame for people to find themselves. If you start changing every second year, people will get totally confused. You can apply different tools. That's a different story. That, okay, now we have been using this, now we are going to work even harder with lean. We need to get new competence about lean. That's not the strategy. That's to me a tool. Yeah. The strategy is still the same.
So last question. So this podcast is really designed to help people in the sports and outdoor industry on their career path to learn from people like yourselves' experiences. So is there anything that we should have talked about or I should have asked you that I didn't? Anything that you would, any last message that you would want to share?
I think the outdoor industry is a fantastic industry to be in. I mean, you see the underlying growth that we have been seeing during the last 10 years. Again, forget the pandemic. That's a different story. But pre-pandemic, and even if you look at 2022, 23, camping grounds were fully booked, right? So there is something out there. I believe that the more urban we become, the higher desire we are going to have to spend time in nature. I believe that electrification will also change the way we're spending time in nature. I believe that one of the paradoxes nowadays is, on one side, we want to spend more time in nature, at the same time as we still want to have a decent level of convenience when we are in the outdoors. So that's a fantastic combination, opening tons of opportunities. So I think this is the right spot to be in. And of course, technology will make it happen. So I think that's perhaps the other one that we need to consider every single day, is sustainability, and how will sustainability drive electrification, technology, devices, because what is not going to change is our desire to be out. Is how do we spend our time.
Right.
So believe in yourselves, go for it, have dreams, and be a little bit paranoid.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Juan. It's been a really great chatting to you, and I've been admiring the brand and watched the brand grow and develop over the last few years, and it's amazing to see the transformation that's already happened. But listening to you today, I'm also excited to see what's coming next. I'm sure there's some great stuff coming. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your interest in Dometic.
I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. We love to read your feedback, so please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again for your support. See you soon, and don't forget to subscribe.